Welcome back to the fourth episode of the Happiness Project, and I am your host Rena Jain. Thank you for tuning in. The Happiness Project is now listed on the iTunes Store. You can listen to all my episodes on iTunes and Spotify from now on. You can also subscribe, rate, and review my podcast. Thank you for the unconditional love and support that I received from you guys. Follow me now on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for all the updates related to the show. All the related links to this episode and the podcast are mentioned below. Last week we discussed about managing your emotional triggers. So many of you wrote to me thanking me for the strategies, and I'm so glad you all found it helpful. You can also access to the toolkit for the previous episode on my social media. Trust me, it's just a matter of time and you will find yourself in a much better place mentally. If there is anything you are struggling with, please feel free to email me with any queries that you have and allow me 24 hours to respond to your query. So, let's move on to the episode today. This is a topic that a lot of you have requested me to talk about. I think I'm going to get a lot of women listeners to this episode today, not only because I know of a lot of women who spend a lot of their time overthinking, but also because there's a lot of research that goes around stating that women engage in overthinking more than men do. I'm not denying the fact that men don't engage in overthinking, of course they do, and I know of a lot of men who do too. Most people spend more than half of their lives overthinking about situations, people, or playing certain scenarios in their minds over and over again. A few others also spend time overthinking about overthinking. Sometimes people also have a tendency to create thoughts and ideas that don't really exist in reality. Let us dive a little deeper into understanding what exactly is overthinking. Overthinking is simply when you live too much inside your head and too little outside. There were a few jokes that got viral related to overthinking. One of them said, "Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the internal monologue." At some point of time in our lives, we all go through stressful situations that lead to worrying. But people who overthink, they can't take their concerns off their mind. They either worry about their past or their future. They think of situations which sometimes create stress and fear. They also engage in a negative self-talk and don't have the ability to make the right decisions. Overthinking consists of two major aspects, ruminating and worrying. Now, what does ruminating mean? It means when you simply think about your past action, you rehash your past, and you repeat those thoughts in your mind, wishing you did something differently. Thoughts such as, "I shouldn't have spoken so much in the meeting today. Maybe I overdid it." Or, "What if I didn't change my job? I would be in a much better place now." Or, "I should have made an effort to talk to him. Maybe now he thinks I'm self-centered." And the other aspect of overthinking is worrying. Worrying excessively. Worrying simply means you foresee the worst case scenario in your mind and often stress about it as if it has already happened and it's very catastrophic. Things like, "I'm not going to get promoted," or "My husband will never understand me and he's better off without me," or "I'm going to fumble in the presentation tomorrow. It's going to be disastrous." Look, I'm not against the idea of hope for the best, expect the worst. However, I believe that if we expect the worst, we are giving in a lot of our energy into making the worst happen. And that in turn makes things worse for ourselves. You need to really think about this. Every time you overthink about something, does it lead to a solution? Does it solve a problem? And you know the answer is no, it doesn't. It's a mental rut that you are into and you don't know how to get out of it. You don't know how to stop it. Overthinking can lead to severe mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. It's likely that overthinking causes your mental health to decline, and as your mental health declines, the more likely you are to overthink. Also, it is a major cause of stress leading to psychosomatic disorders. I don't mean to scare you here, but precaution is always better than cure. Now that you know what the repercussions are of overthinking, you will make sure that you try and not engage yourself into your mind too much. Mind is an extremely powerful tool if used effectively. I have discussed this in my previous episode where I spoke about how what you feed in your mind grows. I am putting a lot of emphasis on changing the way you think because trust me, it can change your life. Let us now begin to understand if you are an overthinker or not. I am going to discuss a few specific statements that an overthinker can relate to. If you relate to most of the signs, you need to then begin to take the necessary steps that will help you reduce overthinking. We will discuss that in just about a minute. So, do you play certain scenarios in your mind and beat yourself up? Do you have difficulty falling asleep because the neurons in your mind are so active that you end up thinking and thinking and thinking even more? Does it feel like a never-ending process? Do you spend a lot of time understanding the hidden meaning behind everything everyone says to you? Do you live in what if, should have, and could have? Do you spend a lot of time worrying about situations which you have very little control over? Is it difficult for you to make the routine decisions in your life because you think, what if everything goes wrong? Are you constantly wondering why someone has not replied to your message literally right after you sent the text message to them? Do you also analyze the OKAY, the OK, or a K in a text message sent to you? Yeah, the letter K has led to more fights and misconceptions in a relationship. Jokes apart, are your actions based on what other people think about you? Is it difficult to get your mind off worries? I understand these statements might have shaken you a bit. I have got some remarkable response from the audience related to this topic. And I'm also very certain that these thought patterns can be shifted gradually. As Tony Robbins says, that you were never born as an overthinker. All humans have patterns to their behavior. These patterns develop over time based on life experiences. And just as patterns are learned, they can also be unlearned. First step here is to say stop to yourself in any situation when you find yourself overthinking. Set a bar for yourself that beyond a certain point, I'm not going to think about a situation because I have least control over what has happened and what will happen. What I have control over is how I want to feel right now. And right now, I want to feel pleasant, happy, and that will only happen if I live in the moment. By simply being present wherever that you are with your whole mind, body and soul, you can also tell yourself, I will think about this thought later. This way you are postponing your overthinking and slowly getting rid of it. This will help you to deal with your thought process constructively. Secondly, overthinking can create a ruckus in your mind and in your behavior. It can also affect your daily functioning. And you don't want to live a disorganized way of life, right? Where everything that you do leads to stress. And stress in turn leads to overthinking. One of the effective ways that I have found helpful is to reflect on your problems. Constantly thinking about a certain thought can only lead to more problems. Rather, incorporating 30 minutes of your thinking time where you allow all your thoughts to come to your mind. Literally everything. In the last 10 minutes of your thinking time, ask yourself some deep rooted questions like, why am I so worried about the situation? What do I fear the most? What is the worst thing that can happen? Can I control anything now? What can I do best in this situation? Do I have any evidence to support my thoughts? Or are they simply thoughts creating a fictional story? Once your 30 minutes of your thinking time are over, tell yourself, I'm done for the day. And any thoughts that will come to my mind which will make me overthink, I will think about them tomorrow. The idea here is to figure out why does it bother you so much and trying to talk your way out of your mental circles. Thirdly, engaging in a state of flow. A state of flow is a zone, a mental space where a person performs an activity and is fully immersed in that state with full attention. You lose track of time and your entire being is involved. And you also use your skills to the optimum. You can literally engage in any activity of your choice, from painting to dancing to singing or playing a sport. You need to find your flow and allow yourself to flow. You will slowly find yourself to be present, very alert, and clear minded. This activity will help you get rid of overthinking. It's one of the most effective technique of mindfulness. Mindfulness takes time. Just like any skill can be developed, mindfulness can also be developed over time. You can make this a routine and try and incorporate this in your daily schedule. And finally, let go of the past. Everyone has a past, but some people let go of the past and accept the it is what it is mentality, which helps them manage their lives effectively. Few others live in the past and tell stories to themselves about what if and should have, which makes it miserable for them to live. What matters is what you tell yourself. And if you tell yourself all the things that should have been, are you really doing justice to your present? Right now? No, right? If you want to ease your mind, this is one thing that you need to do. Let go of your anger. Let go of any regrets that you have. And most importantly, forgive yourself and others. It's one of the substantial ways to change your story into how you want it to be. Once you take charge of your emotions, accept everything just the way it is and accept every situation just the way it is rather than wanting things to be any different and start living in the present, you will find yourself happier and you will be more at peace with yourself. If you trust that life is happening for you, you're manifesting more of it. I understand that everything cannot happen overnight, but can we at least give it a shot? Can we try at least? I promise you that once you try and effectively make use of these strategies, you will see some remarkable changes taking place in your life. I promise you change for the better. Thank you for joining me this week on the Happiness Project. Next week, we are going to be discussing about relationships. I am not going to give out a lot, so hold your horses and don't miss the next episode. Make sure you never miss a single episode of the show by clicking the subscribe button now. You can now listen to my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for all your support. And if you like this episode, please share it with as many people as you can. Because sometimes all it takes is one push for someone to transform their lives. Let this podcast be that push. Thank you once again and see you next week.